In the dark night, when everyone was sleeping peacefully, Santa was awake, preparing for Christmas like he did every year. The workshop was quiet, but busy at the same time. Gifts were packed, the list was ready, and the reindeer were standing in their places, waiting. Everything looked normal. Santa checked the list one last time, adjusted his coat, and smiled. It was time. Christmas night had begun. But just as Santa was about to leave the warehouse, something unusual happened. One by one, the reindeer slowly sat down. Then, without any struggle, they fell asleep. Not like normal sleep, deep, heavy sleep. At first, Santa didn't think much of it. He thought maybe they were tired from the cold, or maybe they were just resting for a moment. That had happened before. Santa waited. Nothing changed. Santa walked closer. He called their names. No response. He touched their heads, shook them gently, then harder. Still nothing. That's when Santa noticed something that wasn't there before: a faint purple mark on one of the reindeer's side. Santa froze. That mark wasn't normal. Santa had seen it before, a long time ago. At that moment, Santa knew this wasn't tiredness. This wasn't cold. The reindeer were under magic, and Santa also knew who could do something like this. He didn't panic. He just turned toward the elves and said calmly,
"Give me the medicine."
The elves didn't ask questions. They already understood something was wrong. Santa carefully poured the medicine into the reindeer's mouth himself. A few seconds passed. Then slowly, one reindeer opened its eyes. Then another. The purple mark began to fade. The reindeer stood up. Santa didn't waste a single second. He climbed onto the sleigh and said,
"Let's go. It's Christmas night."
This time, the reindeer responded. They lifted into the sky, and Santa finally began delivering gifts. House after house, chimney after chimney, everything seemed back to normal. Santa moved fast, focused, as if he wanted to finish before something else could go wrong. And then someone stopped him. In the middle of the sky, a man dressed completely in black was floating, waiting. He looked directly at Santa and calmly asked,
"Where are you heading, Santa?"
Santa tightened his grip on the reins. And that's when Santa understood the magic at the warehouse was only the beginning. There was more to come. Santa didn't answer the man immediately. He had learned long ago that when strange things appeared on Christmas night, answering too quickly usually made things worse.
"I'm delivering gifts. Same thing I do every year."
"You should hurry," the man said at last. "Tonight isn't normal." Santa gave a short smile. When was the last time it was? The man didn't laugh. Instead, he slowly moved out of the way. "You can go," he said. Then, almost like an afterthought, he added, "Just remember, some doors aren't attached to houses anymore." But there was no time to think about it now, and the sleigh picked up speed again. The next house was close. Santa landed softly in a backyard covered in snow. Everything looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Santa stepped off the sleigh and immediately stopped. There was no house in front of him, just a garden, a fence, a tree, snow on the ground, and right in the middle of it, standing straight as if it belonged there, was a door. Santa stared at it for a long moment. He looked around the garden, then back at the door again. He checked the address on his list. It was correct. He was in the right place.
"There was definitely a house here."
Santa walked closer. The door was old, wooden, with chipped paint. Nothing special about it, except that it had no walls. Santa reached out slowly and knocked. Nothing happened. He was about to turn away when the handle moved on its own, just a little. The door creaked open, and cold air spilled out, colder than the night itself. Santa leaned forward and looked inside. It was dark. There was no reply.
"Delivery. I don't stay long."
Santa placed the gift carefully in front of the door and stepped back. As soon as he did, the door slammed shut. He stepped back toward the sleigh. They lifted into the air quickly, faster than normal. Santa didn't look back until they were already high above the garden. At the next house, the chimney led somewhere it shouldn't have. At another, the Christmas lights blinked in patterns Santa didn't recognize. Every few stops, something felt slightly wrong, not enough to stop him, but enough to remind him that this night was different. And then Santa noticed something worse. The purple mark. It was back. Not on the reindeer this time, but but faintly glowing on the bottom of Santa's list. But Santa knew exactly what it meant. Someone wasn't just watching him. Someone was guiding him. Santa had been delivering gifts for centuries, and he knew one thing very well when strange things started repeating. It meant someone was testing him. The purple mark on the list didn't disappear. It stayed there, faint but clear, following him from house to house. The night felt heavier now, like it was waiting for something to happen. That's when the reindeer slowed down again. Not suddenly this time. Slowly. Carefully. Then, just like before, the man in black appeared. Floating. Calm. Exactly where Santa didn't want him to be. Santa let out a quiet breath.
You again.
Told you the night wasn't normal.
You also told me I could go.
I did. You did go.
Santa glanced down at his list, then back up.
You didn't tell me I was being guided.
You noticed.
You don't mark reindeer unless you want attention. And you don't mark my list unless you want me to follow it.
Santa continued.
Either you're responsible or you're warning me.
I don't interfere. I observe. I correct when things get too loud.
Then who's doing this?
The man didn't answer right away.
Someone who thinks Christmas is flexible.
Santa didn't like that word. Nothing about Christmas is flexible, Santa replied. It happens once. It happens properly.
That's why you're still here.
The man nodded. That's why you're still here. Santa tightened his grip on the reins. Then stop stopping me. The man stepped aside, but this time he didn't disappear. Instead, he stayed floating beside the sleigh, watching. You're getting close, he said. Closer than you've been in a long time. Santa didn't reply. He urged the reindeer forward, and the sleigh moved back. The man faded into the distance, but Santa could still feel his eyes on him. The next address wasn't on the list. Santa noticed that immediately. The list ended. No more names, no more houses. Just one final mark at the bottom. Purple, pulsing softly. Santa sighed. The sleigh descended slowly. This place didn't look like a town. There were no houses, no streets, just snow, fog, and silence. In the middle of it all stood something familiar. The door. Same door as before. Same chipped paint. Same handle. Except this time, it wasn't alone. Behind it, barely visible through the fog, was a space that didn't belong to the world Santa knew. Santa stepped off the sleigh. He didn't knock this time. The door opened on its own. Santa walked forward slowly, stopping just before crossing through. The shadows inside shifted. The purple glow spread across the doorframe. For the first time that night, something inside the door reacted. Not violently, not loudly, but it listened. Behind Santa, the reindeer stood still, watching. Far above, the floating man reappeared silently, arms crossed, observing like this was the moment he'd been waiting for. Santa took one step forward, and whatever was behind the door finally moved closer. Christmas night had reached the point where it could no longer go back to normal. And Santa was ready. Santa stood in front of the door for a few seconds longer than usual. Not because he was scared, but because he was listening. From inside, there was no sound, no wind, no footsteps, just a feeling, like something old was breathing slowly. Then the door spoke. Not with a voice, but with memories. Santa saw flashes the moment he crossed the frame-empty rooms, forgotten houses, lights turned off for years. Places where gifts were once left, but never opened. Letters written by children who stopped believing too early. Names that had disappeared from his list long ago. That's when Santa understood. Christmas night wasn't targeted because of the gifts. It was targeted because of belief. The door showed him the truth every year. Fewer children waited awake in hope. Fewer letters were written. Fewer wishes were made without conditions. Someone had noticed that. Someone had learned how belief weakens when it isn't protected. The purple mark wasn't poison. It was a signal. A way to measure how much belief was left. Santa looked down at his list again. The empty space at the bottom made sense now. It wasn't missing names. It was counting absences. The shadows inside the door shifted, finally forming a shape. Not a monster, not a villain, just a figure made of cracks and fading light. Santa shook his head slowly. Behind Santa, the reindeer stamped the snow. Above him, the floating man watched silently, saying nothing because this part wasn't his role. Santa took one final step forward. The door began to tremble. The purple glow faded from the frame. Santa reached into his coat and pulled out something he almost never used, a small bell. He rang it once. The sound didn't echo. It spread. Somewhere, a child turned in bed. Somewhere else, a letter was written last minute. Somewhere, a light stayed on a little longer. The figure inside the door cracked. Not from pain, but from overload. The door closed slowly on its own. When it shut, it wasn't locked. It simply didn't exist anymore. The garden was empty again. Snow, silence, normal night. Santa climbed back onto the sleigh. The reindeer lifted off easily this time, like nothing had ever happened. As they rose, Santa glanced once at the sky. Only later, as Santa returned to his workshop, did he notice something small but important. At the bottom of his list, where there was once a purple mark, there was now a single new name, written in belief. Santa smiled. Christmas continued, and somewhere far away, a door learned that some nights are not meant to be touched.